Oh, wait,
Hi,
it's doing that. All right, it's going. Hey, Maya, how are you doing today?
I'm okay.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Um, yeah, appreciate you continuing to make progress, and you've been really great about being on time and coming to every meeting so far. So just want to say appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So last week we talked about some worksheets we could work on together to move past these thoughts that have been kind of triggering urges for substance use and maybe contributing to feelings of depression. Do you remember talking about that last week?
Yes, I do. The CBT worksheets.
Yeah, the CBT worksheets. So something we talked about that sounded good to you was identifying automatic thoughts and hot thoughts. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And yeah, just to go over it real quick, automatic thoughts are these kind of like spontaneous thoughts we get in certain situations or events. Um, and they kind of pop into your minds and they're really ingrained in our minds. So it's hard to be like fully aware of them. And this worksheet will help us build awareness of them. So these thoughts tend to contribute to emotion, which then contributes to our mood. And we've been working on feelings of depression, so this could be really helpful to like kind of see the correlation between our thoughts, our moods, and our emotions. Um, and these automatic thoughts at the root of them, which are like deep into our brain, that root is like these beliefs and assumptions that we hold about ourselves and the world. And these can be, they're really entrenched in our minds. So we're going to like work to unpack those and see how some of our internal beliefs are kind of shaping like how we feel during the day. Do you have any questions about that?
No, I do not.
Cool. And then, so we're going to talk about automatic thoughts, and we're also going to talk about hot thoughts. So, hot thoughts are a little bit different than automatic thoughts in that they are the most emotionally charged automatic thoughts we have. So, like, these are like the most kind of like intense automatic thoughts we have. So, I got this worksheet for us to work on, and um, you know, because of being blind, I can just like read them to you and I can fill them out myself. Does that work for you?
Yes.
Cool. So there's 7 columns. It's called a thought record. So it's going to help us like dive into and like understand what these thoughts are doing. So there's 7 columns, and each column kind of like moves. Once we fill out that column, we'll move on to the next ones. So it starts with, just think of a situation that um, maybe caused some emotional distress or was a challenging situation that happened recently. So,
That
um,
happened recently.
or the past month, perhaps.
Well, a couple days ago, I ran into my drug dealer, Kevin.
Hmm. Okay. And were you alone, or and where were you?
I was in the grocery store. I was alone,
Yeah.
and I just felt very uncomfortable and weird because I'm sober, and he was asking me where I have been.
Okay. And so, what mood did you get into after this encounter?
I would say I felt sad and angry and like depressed.
Okay. Um, so we have sad, angry, and depressed. I'm gonna write those down. So on a scale, we're gonna rate the intensity of these moods now. So for sad, like from 0 to 100%, like 100% being like extremely sad, like the saddest you've ever felt. How would you describe the intensity?
Yell on 0 to 100.
Yeah.
For sad, let's say 40.
40%. Okay. How about angry?
That one was more like 60%.
60%. Okay. And depressed.
That was up there with anger. Let's just say 65%.
65%. Okay. So now we have our moods and we have the intensity. So we can pick the mood we want to examine. So it seems like, is there one of those moods you'd like to dive further into? Depressed was the one you felt most intensely, but you don't necessarily have to pick that one.
Let's do depressed. That's the one I was going to choose.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So what was going through your mind just before you started feeling depressed? And this is we're moving on to the next column, and it's called automatic thoughts. So
can you ask?
Try to, yeah,
can you
like
ask the question one more time?
So you described after you ran into Kevin, you felt depressed. So like right before you felt depressed, were there any thoughts that were going through your head before you started to feel that way?
Yeah, probably like I was missing that life again. So I started feeling depressed.
Yeah.
Either because I was missing it or I was depressed because I experienced it. I don't know.
Missing that life when you're using substances, or what's the other aspect?
Missing it because or feeling depressed because it's something I experienced, and just seeing him being so low brought it back.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a hot thought. You described some intense feelings of depression, and the thought that comes along with that feeling is like thinking about missing that life and then feeling depressed that you experienced that life for a considerable amount of time. So we're going to move on to the next column, which is called evidence that supports the hot thought. So we're going to circle, you had two thoughts, so we're going to pick one of those thoughts to move on to for this column. Is there one of those thoughts you'd like to examine further, either missing or the feeling?
Let's do the missing the feeling of having that life.
Okay.
Missing being around Kevin and the excitement.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to examine some evidence that supports this thought. So do you have any evidence or like facts that support, that thought or feeling, like anything that makes that true? And these should really be like facts, like very specific, tangible things that, contribute to that thought of missing being around Kevin in that life.
So like a coaster sitting on a coffee table. Like a
Not necessarily. I have a better example on another worksheet here. So like we're practicing facts versus interpretations. So like an interpretation would be like, say there's someone you're worried doesn't like you. Like an interpretation would be saying like she's always giving me negative looks. But a fact would be like the expression on Judy's face changed. So
oh, so a reason why I was feeling, I guess because I was thinking about using again.
you were what was it?
I was thinking about using again.
Yeah. Okay. Any other factual evidence to support your conclusion?
I walked to the ABC store, but when I got there,
But when you got there,
I felt ashamed, so I.
okay. That's good. Yeah, so like that's a fact that you were feeling ashamed in that moment. So now we'll move on to evidence that does not support the hot thought. So the hot thought is missing being around Kevin in that life. So is there anything, do you have any evidence that suggests that you shouldn't, or evidence that suggests that you don't actually miss being around Kevin in that life? Like any changes you felt since you've been sober and abstaining from substances that have like at times made you not miss being around him or that life?
Yes, definitely. Like waking up at, like having a morning routine feels really nice. Like waking up and instead of going to go find Kevin, I have a routine where I wake up and I do yoga and I walk my dog and then I go to work.
Great. All right, the next column is called alternative and balanced thoughts. So you can write like a new alternative thought that you could take place of that automatic thought of like missing being around Kevin. So like kind of based off like what you just talked about, like your morning routine and doing yoga and etc. Can you come up with like an alternative thought that is associated with what we're talking about?
So alternative thought, as in if I'm thinking about Kevin, how would I, like I would turn that around into, like, I don't want to miss my morning routine now because it's so.
Yeah, that's a great thought.
My dog gets walked
Yeah.
now, or he was not.
Yeah, and you don't want to miss your morning routine. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Morning routine is very important.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. Like so now if you ran into Kevin, it might take some practice, but an alternative thought you could have in that situation is like, oh, like I'm I don't miss when Kevin was part of my life, like now I have this great morning routine that makes me feel a lot better in the mornings and helps me throughout the day. And like I get my priorities taken care of with like getting my dog walked. And those are things I used to struggle with. And it's like, that's my thought when I see Kevin, and then maybe will help our brain realize like we've actually made a lot of progress. And um, instead of just jumping into this old way of thinking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So with these two new alternative thoughts you've created, can you like rate how much you believe each of these thoughts? So like one is like, now I can get my dog walked, and the other is like, I don't want to miss my morning routine. Like how true are those to you on a scale of 0 to 100%?
Okay, let's start with the last one because that one is morning routine is what's getting me through.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that one at like an 80%.
Okay.
And my dog walking, let's do 50.
Okay. Great. And now let's go back. We're going to go back to the second column of feeling sad, angry, and depressed. And can we can just focus on that depressed feeling, and like now with this new alternative thought, can we like go back and re-rate the intensity of this mood from 0 to 100%? Like what would you say it is now? Like thinking back in that situation with Kevin, and now with these like new alternative thoughts.
I guess now, yeah, the depression is probably, I'd say, down to 40%.
40. Okay. Great. So that's it for this worksheet. I mean, we can do it again. It's called the thought record. And it's sort of like we're trying to unpack, like sometimes we get so absorbed in our moods that we don't realize that there's these thoughts that can oftentimes lead to that mood. And if we can build awareness and like practice these thought record exercises, we can start to like slowly build our awareness, and that can actually help us make us feel better. So I think you did a great job identifying. It's hard to think back something that was emotionally distressing, like something huge, like running into your old drug dealer who is from a different era of your life. And so yeah, thank you for doing this exercise with me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was 18 minutes and 35 seconds.